Welcome back, everyone. Today, we're going deep on the life of Richard Sorge.
Oh, this is a good one.
Yeah, Soviet spy who operated in, get this, Nazi Germany and Imperial Japan.
Talk about being in the lion's den twice.
No kidding. We got some great sources here, really trying to get into...
The nitty-gritty.
Yeah, how did he manage to infiltrate these regimes? What kind of intel did he actually provide?
And the big question, why did it end in tragedy?
Because it did. This is a story of incredible success, but ultimately a tragic end.
You know, what gets me is how he was able to basically be a Nazi on the outside.
Right.
While working as a dedicated communist spy.
Yeah, a master of disguise, gaining the trust of both the Germans and the Japanese. It's
a wild ride, man.
It really is. So, let's start at the beginning.
The beginning.
Sorge was born in Baku, Azerbaijan.
Interesting place to start.
Right. German father, Russian mother. Family moved to Germany when he was just 3.
Mm.
And get this. His great-uncle was an associate of Karl Marx.
Whoa, talk about revolutionary roots right there in the family tree.
No kidding. So you have to wonder how these early influences shaped him.
Yeah.
Because during World War I, he fought for Germany, even earned the Iron Cross.
Wow.
But the horrors of war and exposure to, well, you guessed it, Marxist writings,
There it is.
led to a pretty dramatic ideological shift.
It's fascinating, isn't it?
Yeah, he embraces communism, joins the Communist Party of Germany.
And
Well, that's where he gets recruited by Soviet intelligence.
the path unfolds. So what were those early missions like? Just getting his feet wet.
From what I'm seeing here, yeah, a lot of assessing the potential for communist revolutions in Europe.
High stakes stuff.
Absolutely. And all while undercover, often as a journalist.
So he was honing his skills in subterfuge from the start. Information gathering, blending in.
Right. Adaptability, deep understanding of political dynamics. This was...
Essential training ground.
Yeah, I'd say so. Okay, so one of his early postings was to Shanghai, 1930.
Shanghai in the 30s, what a melting pot.
It was. So what's he doing there? Still undercover, still posing as a journalist.
Right, but this time his missions focused on Chiang Kai-shek.
Okay, so gathering intel on Chiang Kai-shek and his plans against the Chinese Communist Party.
See, this is where his ability to compartmentalize really starts to show. He's building relationships, gaining trust.
Living a double life, essentially.
Exactly, and doing it well. This is crucial, right? This ability to...
Convince to deceive.
Yes, it becomes essential to his success later on, but also ultimately to his downfall.
It's a double-edged sword, isn't it?
Absolutely. So he's succeeding in Shanghai, proving himself. What happens next?
Well, from what I'm seeing, his success in Shanghai is basically a stepping stone.
To bigger things, higher stakes.
To Japan. 1933, under the codename Ramsey. Sorge arrives in Japan.
Whoa, now that's challenged. Japan in the 1930s.
He's not exactly known for being welcoming to foreigners, especially during that time.
No kidding. Strong surveillance, suspicion everywhere.
And he's essentially building his network from scratch.
Talk about pressure. So how does he even begin to pull that off?
He goes to some extraordinary lengths, I'll tell you. He actually joins the Nazi Party.
Wait, hold on. The Nazi Party, he's a communist spy, right?
He is, but think about it. This move lets him solidify his cover as a German journalist.
Working for the Frankfurter Zeitung, right?
Yep. He was so convincing that even the Gestapo agent stationed in Japan...
Come on,
seriously, dismissed the accusations that Sorge was a Soviet spy.
That's incredible. It really highlights the dedication, the risk involved in this life.
The commitment to the role, to the deception.
It's mind-blowing. Okay, so he's got this cover, but he needs a network, right? Who are the key players?
Yeah, you've got Max Clausen, a Red Army officer who acts as his radio operator.
Okay, essential link to Moscow.
Then there's Hatsumi Ozaki, a Japanese journalist with access to high-level political circles.
Getting closer to the source.
And, this one might surprise you, Eugen Odd, the German ambassador to Japan.
No way, the ambassador himself. How did he manage that?
Sorge was a master at cultivating relationships. Charm, intelligence, fluent in Japanese.
He knew how to play the game.
Oh, absolutely. But there's another piece to this puzzle, a more personal one. Sorge had an affair with Ott's wife, Helma.
Whoa, using personal relationships, getting close to gain information.
It's a dangerous game, blurring the lines between personal and professional.
And it really shows that in the world of espionage, trust and betrayal are...
two sides of the same coin.
Exactly. So he's got this network in place. What kind of information is he actually getting?
He's sending reports on a wide range of things, giving the Soviets valuable insight into both the Germans and the Japanese.
Okay, real high-level stuff.
Like the Anti-Comintern Pact, That agreement between Germany, Japan, and Italy to oppose the spread of communism.
Ah, showing those alliances forming the potential threat.
Right, so Sorge's reports help Moscow understand what they're dealing with.
And I'm guessing this is where we get into the warnings about Operation Barbarossa.
You guessed it. One of the most fascinating and controversial parts of his story. He warned Moscow, even gave an approximate date, sometime in May 1941.
And Stalin just ignored it.
Pretty much, yeah. This is still debated by historians. Why would Stalin dismiss such a credible warning?
Maybe he was blinded by ideology, thought Hitler wouldn't break their pact.
Or maybe he just didn't trust Sorge, thought it was some kind of manipulation.
It's a chilling thought that this vital information was there, but disregarded.
Absolutely. And it raises so many questions. Did Stalin not trust Sorge? Was there something else going on? We might never know.
One of history's great what-ifs.
Yeah. Could those devastating initial losses have been avoided if Stalin had listened? But it also shows just how complex intelligence gathering is.
You can have the best information, but if it falls on deaf ears...
It's useless.
Totally. Now, it wasn't just about Operation Barbarossa, right? He was also sending reports on Japan's plans.
Absolutely. He was able to confirm that despite being allied with Germany, Japan wouldn't attack the Soviet Union in 1941.
Oh, that's huge.
It potentially allowed Stalin to redeploy troops from the Far East, bolster the defenses against the Nazis.
So he's influencing the course of the war from the shadows.
In a way, yes. But there's also this personal side to him, right? The sources mention a Japanese woman named Hanako Ishii.
Right, Hanako Ishii, a waitress he met, fell in love with. She became his common-law wife.
It's interesting, right? Amidst all the danger, all the deception, there's still this genuine connection.
He was still human, capable of love and connection. It makes him even more fascinating, don't you think?
It does. But unfortunately, this is where things start to take a turn for the worse.
No. Let's talk about that next time.
So we left off with Sorge at the top of his game.
Running a spy ring right under the noses of two major powers.
It's impressive, but we know it can't last forever.
Right. The higher you climb.
The harder you fall.
Exactly. So what starts to unravel? What brings him down?
Well, for one thing, all those radio transmissions, sending info back to Moscow.
That's always a risk. Especially back then, analog communication.
Every message, a potential beacon.
Right. And the Japanese, they had a pretty good intelligence agency, the Kempeipai.
And they're starting to notice?
They were intercepting those messages.
So even with code books, one-time pads, all the precautions.
The sheer volume, it just makes you a target.
It's like spotlight the more you send.
Yeah. They notice patterns, the timing, the frequency.
It's called traffic analysis, right?
Yeah.
Figuring out that something's up just based on the patterns.
Exactly. Not even breaking the code, just...
The act of communication itself becomes suspicious.
Chilling, isn't it? Big Brother's always watching.
That's for sure. Okay, so the sources mentioned that Ozaki, Sorge's key informant.
Hatsumi Ozaki, right.
Yeah, he gets arrested first, October 1941.
Yeah.
Did that lead them directly to Sorge?
Oh, absolutely. Turning point right there. Ozaki, under interrogation.
It cracks.
He reveals enough about the ring to confirm the Kempeitai's suspicions.
And from there, it's just connecting the dots.
Back to Sorge. It really shows how vulnerable even the best networks are.
One weak link.
The whole thing can crumble.
It's like a house of cards.
Yeah.
So Sorge gets arrested October 18th, 1941. What's going through his mind?
I can't even imagine. Years of work, all that risk, just gone.
And he ends up in Sugamo prison. Brutal interrogation, tortured.
He confesses, admits he's a Soviet spy, but here's where it gets even more tragic.
The Soviets, they disavow him.
They refuse to acknowledge him.
The Japanese even offered to exchange him for captured Japanese spies.
But Moscow says no.
It's baffling. Why abandon him like that after everything he did?
One of the biggest mysteries of this whole story. There are theories, of course.
Okay, let's hear them. What are the possible explanations?
Well, one thought is that Stalin couldn't admit he ignored those warnings about Barbarossa.
Right, acknowledging Sorge would mean admitting a massive intelligence failure.
Undermining his authority, making him look weak.
It's all about saving face, even if it means sacrificing a valuable asset.
Exactly. But there are other theories, too.
Like what?
Internal politics. The NKVD, the Soviet secret police, lots of factions, rivalries.
So maybe some of his rivals wanted him out of the picture?
Could be. Jealousy, fear. Who knows? It's a reminder that even within these organizations...
There's always a power struggle going on.
Always. It's tragic to think his fate might have been sealed by his own side.
just as much as by his enemies.
Espionage is a ruthless game. Loyalty is a fragile thing.
It's all about self-preservation in the end.
Too often, yeah.
Yeah.
But regardless of why, it's a terrible betrayal. The nation he served
Turning their back on him.
adds another layer of tragedy to the whole story.
It really does. So what happens to him in prison?
He endures harsh conditions, interrogation, but from the accounts we have, he doesn't break.
He's a tough one.
Mentally, at least. There are stories he even found some solace with another inmate, a Japanese political prisoner.
Even in that situation, finding connection.
It's remarkable, and Hanako Ishii, she keeps visiting him.
Wow, that's devotion.
She was incredibly loyal, fought for his release, appealed to the German ambassador.
But nothing worked.
No, it was a lost cause. But their story, it's really something.
It's a testament to the power of love, even facing such adversity.
Absolutely. But in the end, it couldn't save him.
So what was his ultimate fate?
November 7th, 1944. Executed by hanging.
He was only 49 years old.
A tragic end to a life of such, well, everything. Risk, intrigue, sacrifice.
It's like something out of a Greek tragedy, his brilliance leading to his downfall.
There's a sense of inevitability to it, you know? He was playing a dangerous game.
And the house always wins.
Right. But he chose to play anyway. Driven by ideology, maybe some ambition, a thirst for adventure, who knows?
It makes you think about how history is shaped, not just by the big events,
But by the individuals working in the shadows.
making choices that have huge consequences.
Exactly. And Sorge's story, it really forces us to confront some tough questions. Loyalty, betrayal, the morality of espionage.
Was he a hero? A traitor? Something in between.
We'll keep exploring those questions as we look at the aftermath of his life, the legacy he left behind.
So we've covered Sorge's rise, his fall, the tragic end. But the story doesn't just stop there, does it? What happened after his execution? Did he just fade away, forgotten?
For a long time, yeah, pretty much. The Soviets, remember, they disavowed him.
Right, like he never existed.
Exactly. And they kept that up for years after his death. Total silence.
It seems so, I don't know, disrespectful. After everything he did, all the risks.
You'd think they'd at least acknowledge him.
Right. So when does that change? When does the truth come out?
It takes a while. 1964, 2 decades after Sorge's execution.
Wow, that's a long time.
The Soviets finally come around. They acknowledge him as a hero, posthumously, of course.
Hero of the Soviet Union, big ceremony, the whole 9 yards.
Yep. His story's finally told, but only then, after all that time. It makes you wonder why.
Wait, what changed?
Well, by the 60s, the political landscape in the Soviet Union's a lot different. Stalin's gone.
New leadership, maybe more willing to admit the past, the mistakes.
Possibly. But you also got to think Cold War's in full swing.
Ah, so Sorge's story becomes a useful tool.
Propaganda, right. Look at our brave spies, the sacrifices they made.
Fighting against fascism, all that.
Exactly. Boosts national pride, paints the enemy as dangerous, the whole deal.
So from being buried to being exploited. What a turnaround. How does all this affect how he's remembered today?
Well, he's definitely not forgotten anymore. He's become a bit of an icon, you know?
The tragic spy, betrayed by the system.
Yeah, there's books, documentaries, even movies about him.
It's a compelling story, no doubt. All the elements of a thriller.
Deception, high stakes, betrayal, tragic end.
And it makes you think, doesn't it? About loyalty, sacrifice, the whole morality of espionage.
Big questions. And speaking of big questions, one that comes up a lot is, did Stalin's dismissal of Sorge's warnings actually change the course of World War II?
Yeah, it's a big one. What do you think?
Tough to say for sure. Sorge gave them incredible intel, but would it have mattered?
Right. Would Stalin have been able to prepare even with the warning?
Grim.
Would they have stopped the Nazis anyway?
So many factors involved.
Yeah.
It's a debate historians still have.
And it makes you think about Sorge's motivations, too. Why do it? Why risk everything for a cause that ultimately abandoned him?
Right. He was a true believer, no doubt, in communism and a better world.
But maybe there was more to it. A sense of adventure, a need to prove himself, make a difference.
I think so. Espionage, it attracts a certain type of person, you know?
The ones who want to live in the shadows operate outside the rules.
Maybe looking for something they can't find in ordinary life.
A sense of purpose, belonging, who knows. But for Sorge, it became his whole world.
Mm-hmm.
And in the end, that world betrayed him.
He was a master of the game, but he was still playing by someone else's rules.
A pawn in a much larger game. It's a sobering thought. We often think of these spies as larger than life, but they're still human.
Vulnerable to the same forces, the same betrayal.
It's a side of espionage we don't often see. So, as we wrap up this deep dive into Richard Sorge,
A truly fascinating figure.
absolutely, it's a reminder that history is full of these complicated stories, full of moral gray areas.
Nothing's black and white, especially in the world of espionage.
We hope this has given you a glimpse into that world and maybe sparked some thoughts of your own.
About the choices we make, the sacrifices we're willing to bear, the causes we believe in.
And about the hidden costs, the personal toll that comes with living a life in the shadows. Thanks for joining us.